What's up, everybody? We've got some interesting updates on the strike that the US did on Iran. We also have a really interesting update on the relationship between the UK and the US, especially when it comes to the military-industrial complex. And we've got some other weird information that we're going to be talking about. Three good articles that we're going to be talking about here. I know we've been doing a lot of news segments on this channel recently. In fact, this whole week has been news rather than video reactions, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm kind of enjoying it, and the people, like you lot in the comments, we've been having genuinely really good discussions, and it feels like for the first time in a long time, we're really working together as a community to help each other out, and it feels really special. And I don't know if you agree, but I'd love to know what you think in the comments down below with these amazing discussions we're having. Also, like this video if you haven't already. We're going to get into it, but before we get started, check out Chug, 10% off, link down below for the best drinking vessel in the world. If you like me, and you're starting to buy things that will last you a lifetime, this is one of them. Handmade here in the UK by a small business using sustainable materials, built to last, will hold your drink and keep it cold for a very, very long time. Free customization, free bag. These things are phenomenal. 10% off, link down below if you want to look like an absolute legend while drinking your drink. These things are absolutely fantastic. 10% off down below. Also, check out Morale, my business. The drink will be available to people in the UK by the end of the year. We're looking at September 1st release date for those who didn't back the Kickstarter. Clothing will be available worldwide, which is really exciting. This is going to get big. I know it's going to get really big. There's a lot of interest by a lot of people. I am very, very excited. This is going to be the business that will probably move me away from this YouTube channel eventually. And so if you want to get on board with this, we've got a podcast, Morale Boost. If you want to get on the socials, Drink Morale on all socials. Join the movement. If you love the outdoors, which if you're interested in military stuff and you don't like the outdoors, I feel like you're a rare commodity. For the most part, people who are in the military and people who love the outdoors, that Venn diagram is practically a circle. So if you haven't already, go check out Drink Morale. Okay, let's get into this. Okay, the big article that I have been seeing recently, and we're using this Ground News again, which I quite like. I quite like this Ground News. This is not a sponsor. I haven't spoke to them or anything, but they're actually quite. I like their layout and how you can really tell the difference between if they're left or right leaning, because we try on this channel to be as center as possible and be as unbiased as possible and prioritize information spreading so that people who need that information so they can protect themselves and their family can get that information. Okay, this report I thought was super interesting. It's being reported by everyone, so this is not left or right. And that's important with this article. It says, early US intelligence reports suggest US strikes only set back Iran's nuclear program by months. A classified US report showed the US attack on Iran's nuclear site only set back the country's nuclear program a few months, according to the New York Times. The Israeli military said it struck routes leading to Iran's underground Fordow nuclear facility to obstruct access to the site. Trump claimed Iran's nuclear site sustained monumental damage from the US strikes, citing satellite images. I thought this was interesting, and I don't know whether... Okay, so the big thing is here, the White House has turned around and said, no, these have been incredibly successful attacks. Anything that's saying otherwise is just political opinion to try and smear them. With that being said, I don't know whether this article, because it's center, it's saying it's center, and I don't know whether all these people are reporting on the New York Times saying this, or whether they're all saying, hey, by the way, we got classified information. Because if that's the case, this attack probably wasn't as successful as we would have liked it to be. Now, with that being said, I do want to preface by saying, we, the people watching these videos, us, common folk, who are usually get the brunt stick of a lot of these conflicts, and that's why we're trying to get as much information out as possible, we're never really going to know. We're never really going to know. Iran's going to say that it didn't work out. The US government's going to say that they were the most successful attack in the history of mankind. And there's going to be all sorts of stuff in between. And it's going to be very difficult to get real information on what's going on. What I do know is that these attacks have been successful in scare tactics, right? Iran's kind of slowed down. Israel slowed down. There's been this ceasefire that was on and off a little bit, but it seems to have lasted. To me, the most important thing is making sure if we've got any personnel in US bases out in the Middle East, which we do, and if there's civvies in the area, that these people all get this information so that they can make a good judgment on what they need to do to stay safe, right? People seeing this now are going to be like, oh, maybe the US weren't successful. But I tell you right now, there are a lot of countries, specifically Russia and China, that absolutely shit themselves when they realized that 7 B-2 Spirit bombers flew from mainland America, undetected on their radars, all the way to Iran, bombed it, and flew back, and the Chinese and Russian the radar system didn't even pick it up. That is such a big show of power. It is unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. And so what I think is, whether these were successful or not, although that is a very important aspect, right? I think it's important that Iran doesn't have nuclear capabilities. I also think it was a bad idea going in and bombing, personally, because I think there's other ways of doing it, but that's my personal opinion, and I'd love to hear yours in the comment down below. And I also would love to hear yours if you disagree with me, because unlike most people, I'm going to make my head big for this, unlike most people on the internet, it should be okay to change your mind on opinions. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Shock horror. Shock horror. You are able to change your opinion. Whoa, revelation. So what I'm saying is, if you disagree with some of the stuff I'm saying, let me know in the comments, because there's room to change. There's room to grow. There's room to learn, okay? I thought this was an interesting article. Firstly, I think the biggest red flag here is, if a legit classified document or information was leaked from the US government, that's a massive red flag, and that needs to be nipped in the bud right now. I don't know. I don't really care if you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump. I'm specifically, I don't like Trump as a president, personally. I don't think he's a very good president. However, I still don't want classified information being leaked from the US government, because this is classified intel. And if anyone in the military, left or right leaning, is aware, is this intel is incredibly important to keeping security and safety to the US and the US people and the Western world, because usually when the US is in crisis, the rest of the Western world is going to be in crisis. So classified information needs to stay classified. So that's the biggest red flag. The second one is, if there's doubt on whether this bombing was successful. Now, like I said, you can go in two different directions. Successful in showing the world what the US is capable of? Yes. Was it successful in stopping Iran from having nuclear weapons? Probably not, because not only would the bombing not stop them from getting nuclear weapons, they could just turn around and start making them again, or buy them from Russia. So this is just a pause more than anything, right? I think what the biggest red flags here we need to look at with these articles is, we need to stop these leaks from US intelligence, because that's not a good idea. And we need to make sure that the world still understands how you don't mess around with the West. That's it. Okay, now I've got another article here which I thought was very, very interesting, because I wonder if I can find it real quick. Let me find something real quick. UK Forces News. So I've been watching UK Forces News for quite some time, which is a YouTube channel which a lot of people in the UK Forces watch. And I saw a video somewhere, or it might have been on their website. Basically, the idea was, should Europe start moving away from buying aircraft from the US military industrial complex? Now, I really want to find that video. UK changing aircraft. Let's see if I can find it, because it was by, maybe it wasn't by British Forces News. Should have got this up before I started the video. I do apologize, but it was the Wall Street Journal. This video, right? Article by the Wall Street Journal. Can Europe replace America's F-35 jets? Because there was a lot of talk when Trump said that it was like a kill switch on these jets. There was a lot of talk of, hey, should the US really be buying these jets if they're not fully functional? However, we've just had the NATO conference, or it actually might still be going. UK to buy 12 nuclear carrying F-35A jets from the United States and join NATO's nuclear mission. This is massive. This is absolutely massive, because we've been saying, a lot of people have been saying that Europe should move away from the US military industrial complex, right? This is just bolstering it. This is saying, no, we're going to go even further into it and stick with America. personally, as someone who is a British and an American citizen, this makes me happy. I will only bet my family, the Western world will only benefit if the whole of the Western world in NATO stick together. It's as simple as that. At this week's NATO summit in the Netherlands, Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced that UK will purchase 12 F-35A jets capable of carrying tactical nuclear weapons. This decision follows a strategic defense review prompted by increasing threats from Russia, raising tensions in Europe, and reduced US role in European security. The jets will be stationed at RAF Marham in Norfolk and will allow the UK to participate in NATO's airborne nuclear mission by deploying US-supplied B-61 tactical nuclear bombs. Downing Street called the acquisition the most significant enhancements to the UK's nuclear capabilities in generations, highlighting its support for 100 businesses and 200,000 jobs, while NATO's Mark Rutte praised it as a strong British contribution. The move indicates a shift as the UK actively prepared for a wartime scenario at home and plans to increase defense spending to meet NATO's target amid continued security challenges. Now, that was Trump's biggest talking point. The rest of NATO countries are not contributing enough to NATO. The UK was always a lot higher than a lot of other countries, but it is true that we need to bolster ourselves because it's only getting worse, the world right now. Like, it's kicking off with Iran. They're threatening Western worlds. Russia's invading Ukraine. Like, we don't know what's going to happen next. So the stronger NATO is, the better for us in the Western world. And I agree that we should be putting more money into NATO, right? Again, I don't really like Trump as a president, but I do agree that we should be putting more money into NATO. This here is another article that we're going to end on that I thought was very interesting. A little bit more left-leaning this. With left-leaning UK news outlets, but it is getting pushed by BBC and Sky. And although they say they're centre-leaning, I consider them a bit more right-leaning. UK must actively prepare for potential of war in homeland, review warns. The UK government published a national security strategy on Tuesday, warning the homeland could face a direct threat in a wartime scenario. The strategy reflects rising threats from hostile activities, including espionage, sabotage, cyber attacks, and growing nuclear dangers amid global confrontation. It plans to protect security at home by bolstering borders, increasing resilience, investing in AI, rebuilding defense industry, and strengthening alliances amid complex global risks. In the House of Commons, Pat McFadden, the Cabinet Office Minister, described the strategy as a realistic and firm plan designed to address the significant challenges facing the nation, highlighting the importance of collaboration and steadfast nation security. The strategy implies a nationwide effort to prepare for highlighted threats and calls for greater defense spending and resilience exercises later this year, managing future crisis. Now, personally, I think that we've got more of a worry against AI than we do anything else in this country. I think AI is going to be the biggest contributor to changing the world before nuclear destruction. Personally, I think it's going to get to a point where AI gets so powerful that the online security, online information is going to be completely diminished. And that's why I think channels like this, Original Human, and like Cappy Army and the Fat Electrician and all these other military channels that are really trying to get information out as unbiased as possible with face-to-face. This is not AI. I am not an AI. I'm a real person. That's really important, and it's going to be key going forward, right? I am going to try my hardest to not let artificial intelligence inflict any sort of informational bias on this channel. And I'm telling you right now, as we go forward as a society, it's going to be so much more difficult to discern the difference between AI and real life, okay? So be aware. Let's grow this community so we can hold ourselves accountable and stay away from AI garbage, AI trash news that's not really going to serve us any better as a society. I made that pledge with Morale, by the way. Any sort of interaction between the business of Morale, which is all about connecting with nature, it's all about disconnecting from the online world and reconnecting with nature. Any sort of interaction between the business and people is going to be by a human, right? Any sort of creative endeavor, marketing, pictures being made, videos being made, we're not going to utilize AI because We want to cultivate that human creativity. And I'm going to stick to that on this channel as well. The thumbnails, everything. I'm going to be doing them myself because I think it's important to enhance and keep a hold of that human creativity. And it's keeping a hold of humanity before AI takes. So AI has its place, right? For information when it comes to, you know, give me a recipe on how to make a tahini sauce. I did that last night. AI gave me a good recipe, right? But when it comes to important information about people's lives, or when it comes to decreasing human creativity so that AI can take over that, I'm not agreeing with that. And if you agree with me there, like this video, comment down below, join the community by subscribing. We're sticking together. We're going to grow as a community and keep this information as unbiased as possible and help each other grow and help each other become the best versions of themselves. If you like these new reports that I've been doing instead of the reactions, let me know in the comments. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video. It is now Wednesday. Let's hope, and I've said this in the previous videos, let's hope by the end of the week we're watching something fun and not getting too worried about this stuff. But also, if you do like these news report ones, I might just keep doing this because I'm really enjoying it. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.